It's April 2024, meaning almost exactly 2 years ago, I burned out building my own startup. And I want to talk about this experience, what I learned from that, and why it won't happen again in this video. The kicker to this, and this is the main reason why I'm doing this video in the first place, is it sounds a little weird. I worked on my startup part-time while still having a full-time job, then I quit my full-time job, and then I burned out. I burned out not from the fact I was working essentially 2 jobs at the same time. I burned out because I was only working on one project, the project that didn't make any money. At the time I was living in Thailand. If you don't know, I'm a digital nomad. I've been traveling the world for the past 4 years, and I had 2 months in Thailand. In those 2 months, I decided to do a 1-week vacation, which ultimately turned into a 2-month vacation. However, a vacation that wasn't fun. It wasn't really relaxing at all. It was rather stressful. And the stress didn't come from working, it came from not working. I was just feeling guilty the whole time because I couldn't get anything done. I couldn't work. I was working on this project called Control Console, which is sort of a live dashboard where you can add all sorts of information, like connect your Garmin watch, your fitness data. You can add your stock and crypto portfolio, track your to-dos and goals, and a lot more things. And this was the main problem. The a lot more part was essentially the problem. The scope of the project was just way too big for a solo developer, and especially for a solo developer who didn't really have much experience prior to this particular project. And so my days were usually like this. I work on one thing, get this thing finished, but in the meanwhile I encounter 100 new things that I also need to get done. And this gets frustrating rather quickly and also very overwhelming. My list of to-dos of what I need to do to make this product functional, to give it a good usability was just insane. And this made me stop on it at some point. So I think this is one reason for the burnout, the just ever expanding scope with no end in sight. There are 2 more reasons though. One is the pressure to make money. If you don't have your job anymore, which is making you money, you need to find a new way to make money. And this put a pressure on me that I just have to monetize this project. Otherwise I need to do some other kind of work, pick up freelancing gigs or whatever. I did have some runway, about half a year of savings, that I ended up using because I was just not able to work for half a year, almost. The funny thing is, the job that I was working on before that is also my startup. But a startup that makes at least some kind of money that I can pay myself a salary, or that we can pay ourselves a salary, because this is not me, this is not a micro entrepreneurship startup where I'm the only one working on this. This is where we have a core team of a few people, a handful of people who are working full-time or part-time. On this startup, it's the Guide GG, I talked about it on my last video, and I ended up quitting this startup at the end of 2021. So I had about 4 months working full-time on Control Console before I stopped working on that too, and then I didn't work on anything for 6 months. Not even YouTube. I wasn't even able to do YouTube. And the irony is that we kind of go full circle, because after this phase, I go back to the startup I worked on previously, the Guide GG, which I still work on today. It has been more than 10 years now, effectively, since 2013. So this has been the project that made me some money, that we were able to pay ourselves a salary, not a high one, but one that made us able to sustain our lives. And it gave me back the opportunity to see everything else I do, again, as a side project. And speaking of side projects, I think this is the 3rd reason why my path led me to a short burnout, and that is, previously, everything I did aside from the main company, aside from the Guide GG, was I made side projects, meaning I work on them when I can, when I want, and yeah, when I feel like it. So these projects are more fun than anything. They're just, I want to work on them. I want to improve them. I want to create stuff. I always want to create things. And so the side project went from being a fun side project to being the main focus of my life. And that wasn't really that fun. Like, I realized suddenly the work became real work and I need to make money. I need to do all the kind of things that are not that much fun too. And I believe that side projects are not really an option, at least not to me. To me, side projects are absolutely necessary. There's a very good article by Paul Graham, and I'm gonna read a short segment, the entry segment of this article, because it really speaks to me and hopefully to you too. A few days ago, on the way home from school, my 9-year-old son told me he couldn't wait to get home to write more of the story he was working on. This made me as happy as anything I've heard him say. Not just because he was excited about his story, but because he discovered this way of working. Working on a project of your own is as different from ordinary work as skating is from walking. It's more fun, but also much more productive. What proportion of great work has been done by people who were skating in this sense? If not all of it, certainly a lot. And I do agree with that. If I'm working on my own projects in a side project manner, so I'm dedicating 1 hour, 2 hours, maybe 3 hours a day on these projects, I reach unheard of levels of productivity, at least sometimes. I sometimes feel so productive, so efficient, and so effective on these kind of projects because there's literally no overhead. There's no communication with anyone. It's in my head, the strategy is in my head, what I want to do is in my head, the vision is in my head. I don't need to communicate. I can just write the code, write the marketing copy, do the design, and get things done. And this is amazing. I think this is not only one of the reasons for my learning curve, or probably the primary reason for a steep learning curve that I had over the years, at least I think so. I've gotten a lot better in a lot of different things. It's also extremely motivating and just a lot of fun. So I will always have side projects. Even if, for example, let's say in a year or in a couple of years, Lengia or Bitcoiner.bio, 2 of my current side projects, become my main focus, I will always pick up new side projects and things to work on in my spare time. And if you can't do that because of a lack of energy, I think it will be very hard. Building your startup needs to be enjoyable, at least most of the time. To me, if it doesn't feel like playing but simply like work, I don't think I stand a chance against the people who really love doing it. I'm also not competing in the Olympics of startups. I don't want to be the next Mark Zuckerberg. I don't want to build a billion-dollar company. I just want to build projects that I care about, that make some income for me or that can finance my life, and that have value for some people. And that's the great thing about being in a market. Me making income is the direct response of the market telling me this project has value. So now my main goal, and this is the perspective change I had from this failure, is to stay in the game. This is the same when I train for marathons. The number one most important part in a marathon training block is to not get injured, which happens to a lot of runners and has happened to me too. Early last year, best form of my life, but injured my knee 3 weeks before the Rotterdam Marathon. It sucked. Building something, whether your own fitness or a startup, is a lot like Naval Ravikant saying, impatience with actions, patience with results. I am definitely in it for the long run. In fact, I don't even really see why I would ever stop doing what I'm doing. Let's say I hypothetically build a company that I sell for $100 million. I could instantly retire and never do any work again. But this doesn't even cross my mind. Retire and do what? Sure, I could spend more time with the family I might have at the time, or dedicate more time to other projects that are not about revenue, but I think I will always be in the infinite game of building something that then gets judged and valued by the market. Because someone paying for something you offer or I offer is the ultimate test of it having a value to that person. If you haven't experienced it yet, I can tell you, if someone buys a product from you over the internet that you have created, it just feels so much better than the monthly paycheck. It's incredible. I get a notification from Stripe about $10 that I made and I feel amazing. I can't explain why, but it just feels so good. During the time of my burnout, my only highlight of the day was going to the gym and running. I didn't really do much else. I didn't even really read books as far as I remember. And I definitely didn't do any work. I struggled doing 30 minutes of work a day, which I eventually did, and then I upped it a little more and more. And the way I really got back into the game is I got offered a a one-time small little project where my previous team needed help from me. And I accepted because I was like, I'm not doing anything. Let's try this again. I really didn't want to work on this again, but I was like, come on, let's do it. Let's try it. And that was actually fun. And so afterwards, I had another small gig with the same team, and then another, and then it grew and grew a little bit more. And after a couple of months, I was back at almost full-time capacity. Not really 40 hours a week anymore, but 30 hours a week, which is the same I still do today. And that's how I got back into working. And the fun thing is that this spiraled positively into all of the other things I want to do. So I started doing YouTube again and had a lot of success at this time with my channel actually. And then I started coding again. I built Bitcoiner Bio, kind of in the same time period. Then I started doing Lengia. So it's weird. I have more on my plate and I still have more energy to do more things. And when I just had one thing on my plate, this one project, Control Console, I wasn't able to do it and I wasn't able to do anything else either. So I'm very happy where I'm now, working 30 hours on the Guide GG with my co-founders and then working the rest of the time that I have per week on my side projects, which are Bitcoiner.bio and Lengia, and probably another one in the future. My main learning from this experience were only go all in after you've reached ramen profitability, which means you can sustain your life, albeit very downscaled. To think more long-term, to think that the goal of the game is to play the game, to stay in the game, and that more work is not the main reason for at least not my type of burnout that I had, but the type of work and the pressure surrounding that work. And last but not least, do side projects.